any opportunity that we have to hear stories from Grandpa and Great Grandpa, especially about the farm that we can go back and visit, I just love. One thing that I really appreciate from my childhood is growing up feeling like I really knew who I am. I had an identity that was really firm in who my family is and where our family came from. And I'm very thankful for the stories that I was taught growing up about who did what, and being able to hear stories about the family farm that we have and just how life was on a farm and how hard of workers that our family comes from.
There were 12 kids and Mom and Dad made 14. Yeah, we had a lot of confidence in Mother. She made a lot of difference. She always felt like she should have been a missionary. But she had 12 kids, and that was probably a pretty good missionary. Yeah, she had 2 sisters that were missionaries, one in Africa and the other in Japan.
Wow.
She always felt like she ought to have been a missionary.
She was in Goldtree, huh?
But she had a mission field of her own. 9 boys, 5 of them ended up being preachers.
I remember always growing up being like, this is who you are, this is where we've come from, this is what we've learned, and just the pride that comes with that of learning those stories that really just start your story off right and make you confident in who you are. That's something that I really want our kids to grasp and learn as well. So any opportunity that we have to hear stories from Grandpa and Great Grandpa, especially about the farm that we can go back and visit, I just love.
Well, there wasn't a lot of time we took the kids to the farm, but we liked to take them up and show them the pond and show them where I was raised. I think it was your dad that was telling one of the kids that he said that's where Dad was born, and there's no building there. Said, you mean in the grass? See? They can conceive that there's a house there at one time.
Why do you like listening to Grandpa and Great Grandpa tell stories?
Because I like the stories because they were older than us, and we don't know what happened when we wasn't alive and they were. So I just like hearing what happened in the past.
That's fun, huh? What's your favorite part of having a big family?
I think mealtime. We had a bench all across one side of the table, and that would seat about 5 people, something like that. We enjoyed our food. Mother was a good cook. We had a little country church about 2 miles from our place. It's called Liberty, and that's where we attended church. It was a Cumberland Presbyterian church.
Did you do devotions at home too?
Oh, yeah. Mother read scripture and had prayer for the family after every breakfast. And that meant a lot to us.
That kind of sounds like what we do. We read the Bible every day after breakfast or when people are finishing up.
And how life was, and like what games they'd play if they didn't have all the stuff we have now.
Yeah.
Like all the technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they could play tag.
They could play tag, which we like to play.
What if they didn't know what tag was? What if they didn't know what tag was, Hallie?
I bet they did. I bet they knew how to play tag. Because you don't need much to be able to play tag.
Annie, over! Yeah!
Of course, we had a lot of times when we played games, and it was nice to have a big family. we'd play Annie over the house. You had two sides, one on one side of the house, then on the other, you'd throw a ball over. If they didn't catch it, they had to give you one of their persons. And the object was to get all of them on your side.
That sounds fun.
What does the farm mean to you all? Does it mean fun? So the farm means that to me too. It's fun. I like to come and be here. Part of it is I get to experience God's presence here too, because it seems like God is here with me as much as anywhere else in the world, because this is where my ancestors come from. My dad was born here, and my grandpa and grandma, they fell in love, and this is the first piece of property they built, and they lived out here. And my grandmother was the first woman of European descent to thrive out here, because all before here was Native Americans, and then the first two European women that lived here died on the property. It was very hard living. But my grandma was part Native American and mainly European, and so she had 12 kids out here. And this made our family what it is today. So all my aunts and uncles and all my cousins, and there was a bunch of them, because my dad came from 12 kids in his family. And so my grandmother had 12 kiddos. She was a good Christian woman, and she raised her kids to trust in God.
It's a cow! Livia! Cow!
Then my uncles, they farmed out here. 3 of them were actually farmers out here. So Uncle Dean, Uncle James, and Uncle Clarence. When James and Clarence came back from the war, Dean was already married and was farming, and so he didn't go to World War II. But James and Clarence went, and the next one, Uncle Phil went, and then Uncle Bob went, and Uncle Byron went. All went into World War II. And so their role on the farm was to be able to help Grandpa to make a living.
Well, Dad would wake us up about 5 o'clock, and they go milk the cows before daylight. And then we had to eat breakfast, and then he always had a job for us to do out in the field or something along that line. We worked I probably worked at least 12 hours a day.
Wow. One of my favorite parts is just getting to go back and like see like where things happened. And that's really special to me about getting to go back to the land that those memories were built on, because I feel like that's not something that a lot of us have anymore. It's pretty rare to be able to go back and get to visit land that your family has owned, and I just think that's really special for the people that do have that, to be able to continue using the land and being able to continue building new memories for generations that have come after.
Especially when you can go back there at least once a year.
Yeah.
That's what we had the horses for, so we could ride them. We'd ride them out, bring the cows in, milk the cows. Of course, we also had horses that we worked the field. We didn't have a tractor back in that day. Things were pulled by horses. So we had a cultivator that would cultivate the corn, and the horses would pull a cultivator.
Daddy! He ate my hay!
I saw that.
He just ate it off my hand.
A lot of my favorite stories that I have heard as a child, I love my kids getting the opportunity to hear those stories as well. And just hearing those stories repeated time after time in the family just kind of solidifies that those are the favorite stories that people love to remember, and the people in those stories that they remember.
He turned it into a camper.
I decided. This is crazy cool.
Crazy cool.
Ah!
So when I come here and experience God's presence and think about my ancestors that came and lived here, it says to me that our family has a future here as well. And so someday, you're going to be able to own part of the farm, and that you may decide that you want to live here, or you may figure out a way to use it to make money, or a place where you could come and talk to God. So that's what the farm means to me.
We would, for July 4th, my cousins and I would do a firework show for my grandparents, and it was near the silo. I thought it was closer to that tree over here. Going back and visiting the family also just reminds me of the importance it is to continue telling our kids stories, and how I need to start telling my own stories to them, and my own childhood stories and the memories that I had growing up and everything, and that we just need to probably spend more time sitting around and sharing, and probably also letting our kids share stories and practice your storytelling, because one day hopefully you'll be a grandmother and you'll get to share stories with your grandkids, or maybe great grandkids one day.
Or great?
Probably not. I hope that the stories that we are telling our kids, and that my dad is telling our kids, and that grandparents and great-grandparents are telling our kids, will really solidify their identity. That way, as they grow up, they know who they are, they know where they've come from, and there won't be as much confusion as possible if they were left to their own. I feel like too many times we don't want to give somebody an identity or tell them who they are because we don't want to limit them. But I feel like not giving them a firm foundation puts a lot of limits whenever they're confused and they don't know how to figure out what to even do with their lives. And so giving them a firm foundation of who they are and why they are as awesome as they are, I think is really important in growing in their confidence and growing in being able to focus on what they want to do as they become an adult.